Hi there, I'm Raya from the COVID Recovery Initiative, and today I wanted to speak to you about what post-viral fatigue or post-viral syndrome taught me. Now, about 10 years ago, I experienced glandular fever, and I unfortunately did not know and therefore didn't know how to look after myself correctly and went into experiencing post-viral fatigue and post-viral syndrome, and then extended into chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, that took 5 years of my life. I ended up being extremely debilitated and barely functioning and just barely being involved in life. Now, that had a huge impact on my entire life, essentially. It did lead for me to go into recovery and coming into being, I believe, fully recovered. And what I wanted to talk to you today about is that we are seeing a lot of risk of post-viral syndrome and chronic fatigue syndrome following COVID. Now, this is something that we actually have the opportunity of prevention. We actually have the idea and concept that we know the impact that COVID is having on people's bodies, and we know how to look after that to then be able to go into the idea of potentially preventing something like post-viral syndrome and therefore preventing something like chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, if we go to the statistics, and I know that you've heard us say this many times, but 6.6% of individuals will not recover from COVID. Now, that's not the mortality rate. That is the rate of some sort of post-viral syndrome or leading into chronic fatigue syndrome itself. Now, if we think of 6.6%, that's millions of people globally. And again, I know you've heard us say that, but this is something really, really important for you to understand. Now, why that's not only important is that actually leads into the concept that if we do the right things now, if you have had COVID and you are struggling to recover from COVID, if you do the right things, which is health management, that can potentially lead to decreasing your risk of experiencing post-viral syndrome and therefore chronic fatigue syndrome itself. Now, this is a little bit of speculation and a little bit of clinical knowledge in there. We do know that there are predisposing factors that make an individual at risk of developing these syndromes. And we do know that COVID is basically the key that turned the lock that turned it on. That's one concept anyway. So what's really important is that we actually have the opportunity for prevention, and I cannot say this enough. If you know that you're not quite recovering from COVID and you are weeks or even months down the track and you're still experiencing poor health, that's not to say that you're still testing positive, because that's a different story. It is to say that you are now negative, you are testing negative from COVID, and you are still experiencing symptoms. This going into experiencing symptoms longer than your body has fought the virus is a big indication that you're experiencing post-viral syndrome. And within post-viral syndrome, it's really important that you take control of this. It's really important that you begin to look at the concept of pacing, that you begin to look at the concept of health management. This is things going to be your food and your hydration, your sleep, your stress management, your movement management, and your overall management of your day that is leading to either stability within your symptoms or reactivity within your symptoms. And the biggest thing that we can do now is be proactive rather than reactive. If you are constantly reacting, if you are constantly booming and busting, you're doing something and feeling worse, you are getting in a vicious cycle of symptoms. What we really want to do is nip that in the bud if we can, and really make sure that we're being proactive, really looking at where our health needs are and really looking at how we can respect that. Now, you will see a lot about us breaking that down. We will talk about pacing, we will talk about all of it, and it's really important that you prioritize your health in whatever way that makes sense to you, but your health needs to be number one at this time, because you doing the hard yards now mean that this does not impact you for the rest of your life. Now, it's important. It's really important. And I can't find the words. I am someone who went missing from my life for 5 years, and it is of the utmost importance that you prioritize your health. And I cannot even begin to explain what those years were for me. And I think those of you who are potentially experiencing post-viral syndrome, you'll have a little snippet of what I'm talking about and why I can't find the words. And you're potentially struggling to find the words too at the moment of going, why aren't I better? I'm not better, but I'm not getting anywhere and I don't know what to do and I'm feeling really lost. Those are all very, very normal symptoms or feelings. So please know that we are here for you. We know what you're going through. We have strategies for you. Please reach out to us or your healthcare team because it's important that you take action now.